Start with number 5, Tamba Hali, fixture of the Chiefs franchise for so many years, second in career sacks for the Chiefs, but an injury-riddled season, this would not be a shock.
It would not be a shock, and we talked about this the other day, that it's kind of time. I mean, they've been talking about cutting him for the past couple of years. I'm pretty sure he was one of the last couple players to make the team last year, and that's a guy who's owed $9.7 million this year. Look, it might just be time to move on. He's a good player. He was one of the best DNs that the Chiefs have ever had, but he just doesn't have it anymore. He's a rotational edge rusher. D Ford, he didn't have a great season, but he is there, and they've kind of moved away from the type of defense that requires him. He did what he needed to do. He was a fantastic DN, and then he transferred over his knowledge over to Justin Houston, who proceeded to become one of the best pass rushers in the NFL. But I think it's time for Tamba Hali to either move on or retire. The production isn't there. He's getting paid way too much.
I think he's going to retire. I think that's what the thought is coming out of Kansas City as we stand. So there's Tamba Hali at number 5. We'll stay with the Chiefs here. Derrick Johnson at number 4. Chiefs all-time leading tackler, 34th ranked linebacker this season, does not want to take a pay cut. And at this point, the Chiefs are like, all right, see ya.
Yeah, and it's really strange because the Chiefs are one of the worst cap space teams in the entire NFL, ranking in the bottom 10 in that category. You can't really pay this guy who's 35, Derrick Johnson. You can't pay him $8 million or $10 million a year with an $8 million cap hit on the way. He's still a really good player. I don't know if they're actually going to end up cutting him, but I will put it this way. They already have his replacement on the team in Reggie Ragland, the guy they got from the Bills in the middle of the season. So if they wanted to move on from him, now is the time. They need to start freeing up some of this money that they locked into their old defenders, like a Derrick Johnson or like a Tamba Hali. They need to kind of clear out the books because, look, they need to move on from this generation of Chiefs players. They keep making it to the playoffs and folding. The Alex Smith era has been not a disaster, but it's been a failure. They haven't been able to make it anywhere.
I think failure is the right word.
Yeah, so if you want to be able to move on from those guys, you start with Derrick Johnson and Tamba Hali.
Derrick Johnson checks in at number 4 in terms of possible cap cuts coming out of the AFC West. Number 3, Michael Crabtree, wide receiver for the Raiders, and really had his fair share of drops this season. Scored, his typical number of touchdowns, but the yards weren't there.
The yards weren't there, and just kind of his attitude also really hurt the offense. I think that him not really having the success on the field really transferred to the locker room, and he was looked at as a big leader, especially towards Amari Cooper, the young wide receiver, who, it's actually interesting, he's actually an interesting NFL comp for Amari Cooper, Michael Crabtree is. I think they should give him one more year, though. I think that the offense is too much talent on it to move on from it completely. You have Michael Crabtree, Amari Cooper, Derek Carr, plus Jared Cook. You have a lot of really good options, plus Cordarrelle Patterson. I think they should give the offense one more year, give it one more go with a new offensive coordinator. Let Jon Gruden take those wide receivers and take Derek Carr and really kind of open them up in a way that they weren't last season.
Well, he's the X factor, right? Mr. Gruden. What is he going to do with these guys?
Does he want to come in and blow up the offense, or does he want to come in and keep the talent? I think he's going to end up keeping the talent. We know that from his past, at least, he likes keeping guys from old organizations on.
All right, so there's Michael Crabtree. We got another Raider for you. Marshawn Lynch, no dead money involved if he's cut. So he actually finished this season pretty strong. Prior to Week 7, averaged 3.7 yards per carry. After his suspension, averaged 4.6 yards per carry, 625 yards, and 5 touchdowns. And now it comes down to, does Jon Gruden want Marshawn at the running back position, and can the Raiders kind of hold on to him while keeping some other guys?
It's almost as if it took Marshawn Lynch to remember how to play football after not playing football for a whole year.
Interesting.
Wow, what a concept. I think he's going to come back for one more year. I think that was kind of an interesting layover year for Marshawn Lynch. But like you said, once he got his feet under him, he looked the same. He was still burly. He was still running over people. And he was scoring a lot of touchdowns. Now, credit a good amount of it, or not a good amount of it, excuse me. A small amount of it did come in garbage time. I believe at least 3 of those touchdowns did come in games where they were already down by double-digit scores. But I think that Marshawn Lynch coming back next year would be really good for that team. Just in terms of in a leadership position, I don't know how much of a quote-unquote leader Marshawn Lynch is, maybe as an entertainment factor more or less, but I think he should come back. He's a good enough player that they're not paying him this crazy amount of salary. bring him back, give him another year, and see what you have from there.
All right, so there's Marshawn Lynch for the Raiders. How about a guy for the Broncos, Aqib Talib? So the situation with Denver
This is tough.
really comes down to financials, Harris. I mean, they owe Bradley Roby $8.5 million in salary, Chris Harris $10.4 million in salary next year, and then Aqib Talib is $11 million. That's an expensive secondary.
Yeah, Aqib Talib is the third highest paid player on the entire team, behind both Von Miller and Demaryius Thomas, and that's it. Chris Harris Jr. is the fifth, but I think that Chris Harris Jr. has really, he's one of the 5 best corners in football. I think Aqib Talib's play took a little bit of a step back this year. He wasn't really the same player as he's been the past couple years. He's still really good. They can save $11 million. I don't know where they're going to spend that $11 million because, goodness, all they need is a quarterback. Maybe that's what they're going to spend it on. I don't know if this is the year to cut Aqib Talib. He does have a couple more years on the he does have another year next year where he's only getting paid $8 million. So if they want that $11 million this year, they can have it. If they want to wait one more year to cut him, then it's only $8 million next year.